Well, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Andy Nichols from Two Legs here, back in his usual Sunday spotlight here. Threw you a little bit of a curveball. Not exactly 11:30, not exactly 12 o'clock, somewhere in between. Happy to be back stateside and back in my home surroundings, still adjusting to the jet lag. Those of you that follow our social media know that you saw that I was away in Italy for a week and did a live impromptu show from Italy last week, which I apologize the quality for. It was not great, but did it anyway. Hello. Good morning, stranger. We're back. We're back in the regular surroundings and still adjusting to the jet lag. I thought I'd be over it by now, but I'm still not quite there yet. Getting there. Getting there. So now that I'm back, just before I left, the Cube came. You saw the unboxing of that. Now I actually have the time to dive into that properly and explore it, which I did yesterday a little bit and a little bit this morning. Started to play the first LP, the remix, and we're going to do a regular show on this on Two Legs, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. It is going to be probably our next episode, even though we are a Paul show. We are going to do a show dedicated to Mind Games now that I have had the chance. I'll have the chance to spend some days with it and listen to it. I did listen to the remix in full on vinyl. Again, I had it streaming while I was away, which was great, but you need the experience. You need the authentic experience on a home stereo to really take it all in. Good morning, Tony. Nice to see you on here. And I have some opinions on it, pro and con. Still working my way through the whole thing, but the Cube is in the other room, and there it will sit as I kind of go through it. I just saw that Andrew from Parlogram dropped a video on it saying this isn't a box set, it's a work of art. So he obviously is a fan of it. I'll save that video to watch later. He always seems to drop those right before I go live or on Sundays. So he obviously is a big fan of it. Although he did another video on the pressing, I guess on the 2LP. And I guess depending on where it came from, there was some surface wear, there was some scratches on the 2LP. I just played mine. It was fine. The first set of the vinyl anyway. And I didn't really notice, I didn't give it a close inspection, but it didn't pop or skip. So good morning. Good morning, Matt. The synchronicity. Yeah, Kit's all in her glory about that. She got it, and that also got released while I was away. Hello, Susan. Thank you very much, dear. Are you enjoying your Cube? Mike, hello. I just sampled that. I haven't figured out which configuration of the police set I'm going to get, the vinyl or the CD. I'm leaning towards the vinyl for that, just because it's a little bit easier. I mean, the CDs are nice, but I would probably just get them, rip them onto my computer, and never touch them again. But the vinyl I would go back to listening to. Yeah, some good demos on there too. I heard the Every Breath You Take demo, the King of Pain demo. Good stuff. They were very complete though. They were not. They kind of seems like Sting and the Police knew what they wanted to do with those songs. They weren't too different than what the finished masters ended up being. Yeah, so okay, I've enjoyed those, but to me, I love the Evolution documentary one so far. And the outtakes. To me, the Evolution documentary mixes and the outtakes are the crown jewel so far. I just spun, how did I just listen to? Side 1 of the Element mixes on vinyl before I went live. I sampled the first couple of tracks. That Sunday you mentioned it to me, Matt. And I listened to the first couple of tracks on that album. I have not had a chance to listen to the whole thing properly, but I will. But I did remember listening to the first couple of tracks, and I liked what I heard. That Sunday you had mentioned it. So I will go back to it. Generally, when I dive in with an artist, I have to just kind of lock in with that artist and only that artist to really kind of soak it all in and absorb everything. So that's kind of what I do, or whatever listening taste I'm into at the time. But I will for sure. Especially now that Fest season's around the corner, and we know that Harry was such a big Fest attendee for many years. So it'll be very easy to kind of slide back into that mode for sure. Started to go through the book a little bit this morning too. The other big book right there, you see, I went through that too. That was not, I mean, I just thumbed through it, but it doesn't look to be as detailed as the one that came with the CD set. This one, I've really enjoyed the stories and the anecdotes from all the key players. Kenny Asher, Spinoza, especially Jim Keltner. I don't see a lot of that in the John and Yoko Mind Games book. That looks like more like, photographs and a couple of essays, but nothing too in depth from the musicians, which is what is in this book. So this one, I just started reading it this morning. So this one looks pretty good. Yeah, it's gonna take months to get through this. It really is. Good morning, James. Thank you for your last email too as well. I saw that while we were away. Susan says her cube is perfect. I saw some reports that other buyers got damaged ones, like broken Perspex boxes. So I'm lucky. It's beautiful. It is. Is that what you call that thing? Yeah. I still have to pull the plastic off of that cube though. It's still on there. I just kind of unboxed it and then I had to go. Yes. Just from my, hello David, good morning. Just from my initial peruse through, the information from the musicians playing is much more thorough than that one. I do. There's some nice stuff in there, but to me it just looks more like photographs from the get-go. The book that came with the CDs look a lot better. How are you, David? Jim Keltner diverse. Sure he does. He played with everybody but Paul, if you notice. He kind of stayed in that pocket of John, George, Ringo, and all the rotating, and of course the Wilburys too. Matt says, I'm with you, Tony. The elemental mixes are truly... It is. Yeah, I would. I'm happy that it came with the cube, and I will get through it, and I'll read it, but not before I get through the detailed one here, because you're getting a lot. You're getting contemporary take, and feedback from all the key players on the album: Gordon Edwards, Jim Keltner, Ken Asher. These are people that we know because we've read the liner notes to these albums for years. But when did we actually ever hear from these people and playing on it? And what I've read so far is a lot of these guys haven't really revisited the music that they played on since they played on it, since in 50 plus years. So you're getting a fresh take on this stuff. Hello, Only Sleeping. Good morning. James is enjoying the 2 LP version, working on getting the CD box. Yeah. Yeah, Keltner's the best. And I read this morning that his first session with John that he did was on Jealous Guy, which obviously from Imagine, but then he came, back later. And it's really John, realizing that he had to step away from what he did with Elephant's Memory Band. And a good house bar band, like a good New York City rock bar band, but John, I think in his lifetime realized that was a regret, kind of landing in New York and then just kind of embracing super left radical people, and that influenced his next album. And I think he regretted that, and he talks about that in the introductory essay here, of just kind of got to get back to making music. Matt, are you reading I'm reading this one right now, Matt, the one that came with the CD box. Started that this morning, and although I leafed through the big one, but yeah. Susan said some of the things in her cube were jostled around a bit, like the CDs were out of their pockets and then things. Yeah. Did you play those, Susan? And did you use the little flashlight thing to see it? Yeah. Yes, Tony. There's 2 books with that: the standard book that comes with the CD deluxe, and then the kind of companion book that is followed up with every other kind of super deluxe Lennon release. You had it with Imagine, and you had it with Plastic Ono Band. Those kind of companion books that come out with the album. That's what I'm talking about. It's the one that's on the shelf there next to the McCartney Legacy. So yeah, a ton of stuff to get through. I don't even know if I'll have a chance to get through it all before we even record our next show. As you did see on social media, we did not have a show this past week just because I got back late. So we didn't. Very, very rare that we didn't have a full slate of shows for a month, but it happens. You're not going to play those. Okay. I respect that. As a collector, you want to keep it perfect. I get it. I don't think that's going to happen, Tony. I don't. While we were away, as those of you that did watch our episode 254, I thank you for that. That was on the film songs, which has been a little slow performing, probably because it was a topic that was done already before I joined Two Legs. So I can understand why people that might be fans of the show didn't want to watch or listen to that one because it was done already. But I hadn't done it, so it was a nice topic. And literally back soon, no later than 48 hours, and the Fest vehicle is in motion. I'm not really at liberty to say what, when, or where. All that stuff is kind of going to press at the present time, but I will be on several panels. Two Legs will have its own dedicated discussion as well, too, and I'll be on at least two or three, probably three panels, the academic, the historians, those two for sure, and probably another one. But that's all still kind of, all the wheels are kind of in motion for that. So I think that will probably go up on the Fest website later this week, upcoming. I would say maybe by the end of the week, like by Friday the 2nd, I think that schedule will be up because the Fest starts the next weekend. So I would say by the end of this week, you'll know the Fest schedule, where everybody will be, Tom and myself included. And our Two Legs topic, I'm really happy about and can't really talk about it just yet because I told Susan Ryan that I would not share it until it gets published. But it's different, and it'll be multimedia. I'm going to have my computer with me, and the room that it will be in, it was the same room that Kit was in last year when she did Toppermost with Ed. She had a little slideshow computer. I'm hoping we get the same room because I'm going to have a little kind of Google Slides presentation with some video and music to accompany our discussion. So I'm really happy about that. That's something we haven't done yet, or I haven't done yet at a Fest, to bring kind of a video component to the presentation. So I'm really looking forward to doing that in Chicago. Going to work on that a little bit before we leave, which is coming before, here we are almost the end of July. We will be in Chicago on the 7th through the whole weekend. Myself, the MVP, Tom, and the whole gang. As of right now, historians and academic, right now, they're MVP. As usual. Just got an email from Kit about that. And again, I'm not going to talk about any topics because I want to keep that information close to the vest out of respect to the organizers. And when they release it, we'll have a schedule and we'll talk about it, Tom and I, probably when we go live. Yep. Oh, okay, cool. Excellent question. Read my mind. I got to two stores. One in Florence, which was kind of bougie, trendy. It was a bar / record store, which was really cool because the bar was on the first floor, and then the record store was on the second floor. And actually, when you're in Europe, the second floor is the first floor, as you know, ground, first, second. So it was on the first floor. But it wasn't any vinyl that I couldn't get on Amazon. It was all new vinyl. I didn't see anything McCartney wise. They had a Beatles section, but it was all new. It was all new vinyl. It was nice, but I didn't see anything there that I had to grab and get right away. Also, but another store in Florence that I did find was a much more authentic, real record shop, and that was cool. Loads of Italian pressings of McCartney albums. I saw Wildlife, Pipes of Peace. There was a few. It was a really nice record shop. Huge. But, I just can't remember the name of it. But they had a lot of stuff. But I think the average price for any of those Italian pressings were €50. And I didn't have any need to have an Italian pressing of Wildlife or Pipes of Peace or anything like that. It didn't grab me to go get anything. But it was, I didn't need it. Plus, I just, Just got the Mind Games cube, so I'm like, I don't need this right now. Yeah. Let me go back. I'm missing some comments here. It's better to be surprised by the topic. Sure. Okay. Yeah, that was goal number one. After my responsibilities, yes, I had to go and I didn't have a lot of free time on this trip. So the free time I had to find the stores and go. James, greetings from England, Sir Young Andrew. Hope you're doing well. Hope your Sunday has been off. My Sunday is on the phone to Monday because I'm like still adjusting to the time. I'm starting to feel better. One more night, I should be fine. One more night, like Phil's saying. Matt, he knows that place. Not a very good record store. Had I known you were going, I would have pointed you to the Twisted Records on the other side of the river. Okay, maybe that's the one I found. It was down a little side street. Maybe, I don't know if that was the name of it, but yeah. As he did for Imagine, it seems that Sean is releasing the individual CDs on streaming services. Spotify says the Ultimate Mix is coming out on the 2nd of August with 2 of the hidden tracks, maybe a download too. Well, they had a gift shop, but no records. There was no music there, Heister. From what our tour guide was saying, they didn't actually have any music. But I was looking for Pink Floyd live at Pompeii. Hello, Steve. Highlight the comment, damn it. Come on. Hello, James. Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. Back to reality. Yes, the bougie place is right near the Duomo. Yes, it is. Which was nice to go. You know, the ground floor was a nice spot to hang out there for a minute and have a drink. But, yeah, because my brother had gone to Italy about 5 years ago with family, and he told me about that place. And he actually bought me back an Italian Beatles bootleg. So that's the one he had bought it from, so my expectations were a little high for that place, thinking I'd find some rare, anything, but it was very just commercial, and nothing, there was loads of Genesis, and that was one of the things I was telling Heidi, the Prague influence in Italy is off the charts, and I'd love a greater case study with why progressive rock is so big in Italy. Especially with a band like Genesis. The 2 record stores I went into had no shortage of supply of Genesis and Peter Gabriel stuff, which was cool. Yes, Charlie, I did. It was actually one of the first places we went to. No, Tony, I had Chinese food for 11 days. What do you think I had? Of course I did. Venice was good. It was an early stop. It was crowded and hot. It was not one of the more memorable spots. It was okay. And the food we had in Venice was awesome. I had some seafood there, which was good. Very crowded, and you always got to be aware of the pickpockets. Whenever we got in big crowded areas, I always got a little bit nervous walking around. Yeah, Andrea, how are you? Nice to see you on here this afternoon. The plan was to go there, but because we were so delayed getting back, we just could not make it to Brooklyn on Friday. But I know that, I'm drawing a blank here. Why am I drawing a blank here? I shouldn't be. But I know Joan went. Joan went on Friday and had a good time. She posted a picture of it. Were you there on Friday too? Walls and Bridges is my favorite genre. Yeah, well, it's nice to see Mind Games getting the credit that it does. Matt says Goblin is the Italian prog rock. Okay, never heard of them. I've been diving into the Police's Synchronicity 6 CD box set, which is really good. I have the download version. Okay, yeah, that's all I've been listening to so far as well. And I'm probably going to get the vinyl. I'll probably get one of the configurations of the vinyl to have maybe the colored one. I'm not sure. James says Italy's on his list. Yeah, life-changing trip. Packed a lot into 10 or 11 days. You know, from Milan, which if you follow our Facebook page, I got to meet Luca Perazzi, which was so great. What a real and authentic man and human being. Great guy to meet in person. Short visit, literally landed and saw him. Ah, you went. You did go on Friday. Okay. Cool. So it was a really good, exhibition. Okay. It runs through, I believe, August 18th, so got to get in there for sure. Got to get in there. And we will. Huh. Certainly is. Certainly is. Oh, definitely is. Huh. That's the one I'm thinking I'm going to get. Probably the colored one. Susan, Andy, do your 2 certificates in the cube have a different number than the interpreter card? I think so. Susan, in my haste packing up to leave, I did notice two different numbers. That's the one thing I got to figure out still is what number do we have of this cube, right? There was only, 1,300 made? What edition do we have? Now, we know that the reproductions of the artwork are limited in number, but what is the actual number of the cube? If anybody knows where that is. I got to catch up with James's comment here. Somewhat guessing, projecting. Do you think the Walls and Bridges box will be done differently? That's a great question, James, because that's the album we know that Yoko really had no part of, because that was truly recorded while The Lost Weekend was on full, which a lot of people mistakenly, me included, sometimes think that this album really was, but it wasn't. It was all recorded in New York. The promotional aspects of it were done after they had separated. If you know your Lennon timeline history, the album was recorded in the summer of 73. Somewhere in September, John leaves. And in November, he has that great interview with Elliot Mintz on the beach, which was from the 1st of November in 73. He's got the short hair, and they're walking. So the promotion for Mind Games is at the start of The Lost Weekend. But Walls and Bridges is totally different because it was done... Well, if we're doing the chronology right, John went into rock and roll sessions after Mind Games first. And then those sessions fell apart. And then he kind of went into Walls and Bridges after that. So I don't know how the camp is going to spin that one. The history is the history. It's a non-Yoko album. And I think it was right to, hearing Yoko in the background in the studio offering feedback, which growing up as a fan, I was always like, okay, Yoko's not a part of Mind Games, but clearly she was, because they were still together. They were only in the Dakota a few months before they had separated. So her influence and handprint is all over this album, even though it's a John solo album, and again, it is my favorite one of his. So, but the Walls and Bridges one's going to have to be done with history telling us exactly what it was, and I think Sean will do that. He knows. I'm not into the kids' songs, James. I have no interest. I have no interest in hearing the music of the children outside of a little bit of Julian stuff. I have no interest in it. None. Yes, Ted. Elliot's book. Now, is that about just his relationship with the Lennons, or is that about his whole career? That book will be very interesting because he's one of the few surviving people. And that interview is so great on the beach with John and Elliot because John is optimistic. You could just see that he was recharged a little bit. He had distanced himself after the kind of sometime in New York City stuff and really kind of just wanted to have a good time and let loose. And you see a lot of the old acerbic Liverpool Lennon in that interview. I love that interview on the beach with John and Elliot Mintz. But that book should be interesting. But I think it's about Elliot's whole career because Elliot Mintz has been a PR person for everybody. Lots of famous people. So I don't know if it's just about that. And May Pang, if we're talking about Walls and Bridges, May Pang should have some input historically because she was a part of that. She was a part of those sessions, and they were done at the record plant back here, in New York. So it wasn't recorded on the West Coast, but it was all done in the record plant. Yeah. Sean gave okay to Mintz to do the book. Okay, good. Do we know how well? Somebody had posted that it was like 30-something. But again, what do charts mean anymore in 2024? It's not 1974. I don't know. But if it's selling well, and I know that the initial, it came out, 2 weeks ago? It's been pretty good. The feedback's good, so they have a winner here. Everybody, by and large, has said that the box is... And for me, it's the best. There's been 3, right, so far. Plastic Ono Band, Imagine, now Mind Games. This one is the crown jewel. Even it'll surpass whatever Walls and Bridges and Rock and Roll ends up being. Susan says these 4 new James McCartney songs. Okay. All right, so I'll listen to it. If Paul's playing on the James songs, I'll give it a listen because he's on there. Always leave it to Susan for those, detective skills on where Paul is playing, even if it's a co-write or something. She'll always find out and let us know. Thank you. Now I'll give it a listen. Let me scroll back here. Make sure that I got all the comments here. Tony wants the New York City album reissued. Yes. Yes, it is. It is. And maybe it'll get bundled when the Live in New York City stuff comes out, which we know there's a documentary about the one-to-one show coming out, but maybe it'll just kind of get slid into the back of that. I don't know. Tony says, I like James's music and only want them on vinyl. Looks like, yeah. Yeah, Susan's always doing her homework. She knows. Well, the copyright's registered too. She knows it. She knows it. So anybody else other than Tony going to the Chicago Fest this in a couple of weeks? And I know I met Tony 2 years ago for the first time out there, because this will be my third year going. But now the whole gang's coming. I've flown solo for 2 years. Hi, Deb. Deb, love your email too, by the way. Thank you so much. Lovely, lovely email that she sent us on there and going back and watching our old shows. Thank you for that. I haven't seen any reviews. And if you're not familiar with what Debbie's talking about, there was an opera house in Cincinnati that did a full performance of, wait for it, the Liverpool Oratorio. And that got some attention on Things We Said Today, Talk More Talk. I think they talked about it. I think it was a Things We Said Today topic, actually. But I haven't seen any reviews on it yet. But I think it was pretty cool that it was done. Out of all Paul's kind of orchestral pieces, that's my favorite one. Yeah. Steve. I only went to one Chicago Fest once in '87 with my Beatle pen pals. Pre-internet days, right? Via Beatle fan, I'm sure. But we're going to meet the Queen. We're going to meet the Queen out there, and she is going to take us to a store called Blue Village Vinyl, which she's raved about, and I'm looking forward to checking that place out. That's her go-to place, and I can't wait to see that. James says he kind of feels sorry for James. If you take away the obvious unfair Paul comparisons, his music isn't actually that bad. He just seems to lack any charm or it that Paul has. Well, it's got to be tough growing in the living in the shadows of your father. I mean, come on, that's a burden that all those kids have to face. So they want to do their own thing and still be a musician, which is admirable. And if they have their fans, that's great. But that's a tough one. That's a tough shadow to live in. This fest is the same weekend as the DNC in Chicago. Is it really? Ooh, the good thing is though that we're at in Rosemont, it's not really Chicago proper. It's like going to New York City. It's like flying into Kennedy Airport saying you're in New York City. You're in Queens. So hopefully all that political crap is far away from us, because I will be going nowhere near any of that crap. Nowhere. Thank you for the heads up, Matt. I did not realize that. No, not yet. Although if you were on Twitter, sorry, X, I saw that Adrian Sinclair, who runs the McCartney Legacy account on there, today is Alan Cozen's birthday. He is 70 today. So if you're friends with Alan Cozen, shoot him a message or tweet him or X him and whatever, and just wish him a happy birthday. And to many more. To many more. Happy birthday, Mr. Cozen. Ken mentioned a new book. Well, I have some things. I have a couple of things that I got while I was away, which I will show you in a minute. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, there is a new book out, and I have it right now because I got it while I was away. Thankfully, the author sent me a free copy. So let me just catch up on the comments, and I will show you what I got while I was away. Ocean's Kingdom is that came out in 2010. That's okay. That was kind of like I bought it just to say I have it, but I can't say that I've listened to it. And because, again, I don't love everything that Paul does. I like what I like. I like 90% of it, but certain things. But the oratorio is my favorite. But maybe I'll be inclined to listen to it, James, since it's your favorite. You got it. Steve bought the Beatles book. Oh, the Beatles monthly book. Yes, of course. I have a couple of copies of those as well. Not anything from the 60s, because it went well into the 1980s. Charlie, I'll be first in line whenever a Walls and Bridges remix comes out, not so much the New York album. Well, if you know, in 2005, when the first batch of remixes came out, Yoko tweaked with that one a little bit. And you'll know the song I'm talking about, Surprise, Surprise, Sweet Bird of Paradox. There's some tweaking done to that, and the artwork was changed, so not really a fan of the 2005 Walls and Bridges remix because it was doctored up a little bit too much, in my opinion. Okay, not tied to Beatles Fest. Peace and love. Good. Have your politics after we're the hell out of there. Gone. Susan says, I heard somewhere that James is planning an EP of 4. Okay. Russ. Hi, Andy. Any updates with Mark Lewison? Will he be in Chicago? Mark Lewison will not be in Chicago. And that's a good thing because that means he's busy writing and researching. Mark, I've been fortunate enough to meet Mark on a couple occasions, and we had gone to a dinner as a group once. I think that was in the fest. That was the New York Fest in 2023. He sat with our group, so I didn't get a lot of one-on-one time with him, but he came to dinner with us. But he will not be in Chicago. Story of my life. Piles of books, piles of books, piles of books that you get that are just never ending and trying to read. Hey, there's the guy, Mr. Joe Wisby. Hey, there's the guy, Joe Wisby of Books Beatles podcast. Speak, dumbass. Give his podcast a listen and a follow and a like if you are interested in all things Books Beatles. Joe Wisby is your man. And he's interviewed Mark Lewison on several occasions, I think. And we've had him on Two Legs once upon a time. Well, listen, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. So, before I left for Italy, I made an appearance. Well, I didn't make an appearance. I just joined Jude Kessler. Did a focal, what you call it now? Hold on. Focal points presentation. And it was on the 1965 UK tour. And I hadn't attended one of Jude's kind of seminars online before. Yeah. Yep. Oh, grazie. And it was really cool, very informative, and she had a trivia aspect on it. And, she did the presentation, really informative, all about kind of traveling and kind of, it was really the Beatles' last tour of the UK. And it was very informative. We learned all about the kind of ups and downs of travel and things that were kind of going wrong on the tour. But one of the things we learned about was one of the bands that opened for the Beatles on that tour, and that was the Paramounts. And the Paramounts became, later on, Procol Harum. So I got that question right in her trivia section, and she sent me a copy of the Best of the Paramounts Parlophone singles. And you see Robin Trower and Gary Brooker there, way before they became Procol Harum. So that was nice, and she sent me a nice card, and she'll be in Chicago, too. Really nice, lovely lady. And then she was kind enough to send me not one, but two books, okay? So volume 4 of her John Lennon series, Should Have Known Better, okay? And then volume 5, which is Shades of Life. I mean, and these are mammoth works. This is stuff Jude's been working on for decades, and I will get around to it one of these years. So nice that she sent me those. Very nice that she did. Jude, if you're watching, or if you don't see it, I'll let you know in Chicago. But she'll be there too, and she'll be doing a panel as well. And Jude doesn't usually do panels. I had a conversation with Susan Ryan last night, and again, I'm not going to spill too much tea, but Jude will be on a very, very cool panel with a lot of other people about John Lennon. So that was really nice of her. Thank you, Jude Kessler, for that. Now, the other book in question. Yes, he was, and he was, and Eric has played on a couple of Gary's solo albums too. No Fear of Flying, I think of one of them, and they were good friends. And in fact, towards the end of Gary's life, Eric actually paid him a visit. I don't know if you've seen that picture in Gary's last days there. Sweet, sweet, sweet man. And Eric visited him, which was so cool. Let me go back to the comments here. Make sure that Steve Sanderson. Hello. Just arrived here. Yes. Okay. Will do, Steve. Always good to see you on here. Susan said, Andy, I saw you met Luca in Italy. I guess he's not waiting for the next McCartney album and is shortening the time span covered in the second volume. Do you know its release date? I don't. And he is waiting. He told us that on Two Legs. He wants to wait and see if McCartney's going to release an album this year. If he does, then he's going to hold off because he wants to get that album covered into this volume. So what I can tell you, though, is that he is doing a book on Ram, similar to the one that he did on Band on the Run, just like that little short 100-page book. He is doing one on Ram right now, which will be out by the end of the year. That I know is coming out. But I don't know about Volume 2 of his book, of his bigger book, Stories Behind the Songs, which we just have Volume 1 right now. I know a record store in Chicago you would love. They have a ton of Lennon records, even bootlegs. Okay, we'll see if time permits. James, like me, my dad's a Beatles obsessive. He saw them in '65. He's now 72. I at least want him to still be alive to read Lewison's third and final book. Well, Volume 1 came out in 2010? And here we are 14 years later waiting? I don't know. She is. Very nice of her. Oh, he did. So he is going to release it. Okay. That's an update then. He didn't tell me that. 2013, not 10. 11 years. Okay. So the book will be out at the end of the year. I guess he doesn't want to wait to see that book comes out. If that album comes out at the end of this year. What somebody else in the comments said, do we know anything about an album at the end of this year? We don't. I think we'll have an album by the end of the year. And I know if it comes out and then Luca's book is outdated, Luca's going to be a little bit perturbed that he missed it. But James, side topic. I know you're a football Giants fan. What baseball team do you root for? When I'm inclined, it's the New York Mets, which while I was away, I noticed they've been on a tear, playing very well. But I have to be honest, I haven't watched a baseball game from start to finish probably since the Mets made the World Series in 2015. It's just, it's to me, it's too monotonous to keep up with. I'll catch a couple innings here if the Mets are playing well, and that sounds like such a disgraziato fair weather fan. I know that's fugazi, but it's the truth. I'm an American football fan. Although I have, since Liverpool and recently gotten a nice appreciation for proper soccer, proper football. The Euro Cup final was really cool to watch. A good friend of mine is a huge England fan, and one of my favorite local places he works at. He was going nuts rooting for them. So I like watching proper football. I do. But baseball, not so much. Matt says he saw Gary Brooker play with Clapton in '82. Disappointingly. Really? Was it all Procol stuff, or was it an Eric Clapton show? She is. And he is. So he's going to plan a third volume. Okay. That makes sense. Now, yes, of course, Joe Wisby. You'll never walk alone. Yes, indeed. Not Everton, although if you're a traditional Liverpool person, they'll tell you that Everton is the team to root for because they're the oldest one. And actually, Paul will never admit this now because his father was an Everton fan, and Paul now is just all about Liverpool. But Paul was raised an Everton fan because that's where his dad is from. That's a little known fact. He'll never admit that now, but he's an Everton fan. But it's all about Liverpool, LFC, but he is an Everton fan. He'll never admit it, but he is. Yes, we covered that a little while ago. 2, underwhelming. No big scores. Oh, it was a Clapton show. Okay. Maybe we'll see. Aaron Rodgers comes back. Football is like another month away. American football is another month away. We'll see. You don't know what the Hoffman Forum is? Come on, Tony. That's one of the great sources of information for music out there today. That's the Steve Hoffman Music Forums, which any kind of big music person's always on. Go check that out. Somebody send Tony the link for that, or if I can, I'll post it here. Steve, I think Liverpool plays on the ground that Everton used to play on. Okay. But that's true. Look, Paul's really a blue at heart, not a red. Okay. Well, that's the thing, Steve. To the earlier point about baseball, like music and researching and a little thing called work take up my time. So, and podcasting. So to keep up with a sport like baseball is just tough when we're trying to do other stuff. Okay, see, Liverpool and Everton. Okay, that's the PR answer, but that's not his real answer. You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. Now, the book in question that I received, and traveling, of course. This is the book mentioned, I think, by Ken Michaels, and I just got it in the mail while I was away. It's called Macca in the Long Noughties, okay? Paul McCartney Tracks, Life and Tours, 1998 through 2009 by Ian Derbyshire. And Ian, thank you for a copy of the book, an advanced copy. As you see, this is not for resale. This was waiting for me when he come back. So this will obviously be a talking point at a future show on Two Legs. We'd like to have Ian on. And thanks again for the book. Nice period. Very nice period to talk about, because now we're getting into, like, the last 20 odd years. The last 20 odd years with the band. Got some nice photos in here too. The touring. I'm just going to scan through it real quick, but there's some color picture here. Yep, here we go. Paul with the Late Show. We all remember that. So got some color photographs in here. And again, it's just nice to see books on McCartney's solo career. Specific periods. I feel like after decades of getting nothing, now we actually have it. Thank you, Steve. It was great, Scott. Thank you for asking. Well, yeah, this is an interesting period, 98, right? Because Linda passed in April of 98 and really closed the book for me on a kind of Paul. That's why I kind of think like everything up to Flaming Pie and then post Flaming Pie. You have to I view Paul's career in that way, in two ways. With Linda and without Linda. That's the way how I kind of bookend them, because they were such a pair, united for their entire lives, from when they met to when she passed. So she was such a, integral part of his life, an influence on his music, his writing, everything that he did. So this book really is just on that kind of like initial period after that through 2009. So, which kind of just goes up to about the Good Evening New York City tours and the end of Memory Almost Full. Russ says Paul was taken to Goodison Park, Everton home, and he paid attention to singing and trumpeter playing tunes. Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, but he's been very generous about that stuff over the last 10 years. You're hearing stuff like Letting Go, Listen to What the Man Said, 1985. When I first saw Paul in 2002, I could have only dreamt to have heard Letting Go or Listen to What the Man Said or 1985. And now you've gotten those songs in his concerts. I think if there's one thing we'd like to see more of, it would be his 80s material, right? Let's hear Take It Away. Let's hear No More Lonely Nights. Let's hear My Brave Face, right? The 70s stuff he's just kind of reintroduced over the last decade, but I think, at 82... you've got what you got. He knows his format. He's not going to change it. Yeah. That goes without saying. That's the gift that keeps on giving since 1976. I don't think there's been a tour without that song in it. Like 4 or 5 songs into the show, you're going to hear Let Me Roll It. You just know it. So, which is fine. We can bitch all we want about Paul McCartney, but when you're there in the moment, you could give a crap what he's playing. You're there seeing Paul. And I know in the context of like wishing and hoping for the best, when you're there seeing the man live, you don't care if he's reading the encyclopedia, from A to Z. You really don't. You really don't. Yeah, Here Today is the only 80s song. I know over the years he worked Hope of Deliverance into some of his set lists in some of those kind of South American cities. That's crept back in there. That's a rarity to hear Hope of Deliverance from Off the Ground, but it's worked its way back in. Exactly, like he says in the anthology. It's the bloody Beatles White Album. Shut up. Just like seeing Paul. Whatever. I agree. Press. We played Press live. I know somebody who might faint. Well, she's going to faint anyway, but if he played Press, she definitely would pass out. Take It Away fits in concert with Letting Go with horns, hopefully someday. It does. Take It Away would be good. Yeah. Temporary Secretary, not scared. Yeah, exactly. Temporary Secretary, another 1980 song. Yeah, you. Let me roll it. If I watch a Paul show on YouTube, as soon as he takes his jacket off, I know it's my cue to fast forward a few minutes. Jacket off, fast forward. Good one, James. That's a good one. I like that. Okay, let me go 5 minutes into it because I'm not going to listen to the next song. You cracked me up. That's a good one. Yeah, I saw him do Temporary Secretary here in New Jersey in 2016, and that was fairly early in the set. That was cool. I thought you were going to say Live and Let Die when you said every live concert. That's up there too. That's up there too. I think Live and Let Die has also been played at just about every big concert as well, towards the end. Charlie says, I wish SiriusXM would play more solo deep cuts. You mean on the Beatles channel? Well, and thanks to our friend Caitlin Larkin, who was on an episode of Two Legs some months back, she, off air, she kind of explained to me there's rules. SiriusXM has rules about the Beatles channel. Because I said to her, I'm like, why can't we hear like deep cuts? She explained to me that there is a format and a rule they have to follow. They've got to play like 4 Beatles songs an hour, a cover song per hour, and then one of each solo career. They can't play too much by one because the solo music is, actually that's not under the same umbrella as the Beatles music. So Paul's music is covered under MPL. John and George's and Ringo's are obviously different, all I think under Warner UMG. But there's a reason for that, and I asked her, and there's rules. And if you listen to the Beatles channel, you'll hear an influence track, you'll hear like a 50s song, and then but it can't just be we're going to play an hour's worth of Paul stuff unless it's a separate show like the Dark Horse Radio Hour with Laura Cantrell. That's a specific show, and I know they did a little series on Mind Games too, which I haven't had even a chance to listen to, which came out like a 4-part series. So certain specific shows they can talk about, but if it's just regular radio, there's rules with that, and that was pretty informative. So thank you, Caitlin, for the explanation about that. They can be restrictive, even if you pay for it. You're right. Let me go back up to the comments here. James. So should McCartney continue to put out archives or do smaller formats similar to what he did with One Hand Clapping? I'd like to see some remixing and evolution tracks on albums like Press to Play and Off the Ground. I think we have the format, and you've seen it now. You got it with One Hand Clapping. You got it with Band on the Run underdubbed. I think that's what we're going to get now, and I think that's what it's going to be. I think that's what it's going to be. Smaller niche releases, and that are affordable, which is fine. Coming up was in the set. Now it's a sound check song. Very good, Scott. Hopefully, when we go to see him in Manchester, coming up is in the sound check. Oh, Young Boy and World Tonight would be nice. I think Young Boy would go down better than the World Tonight for a live show. James was at the Temporary Secretary's live debut in London at the 2015. The Diehards went nuts. I believe it. I believe it. He only did Sea Moon once, but only in the pre-show. Well, that's a sound check stalwart, that one. It is. Yes, I saw that. So Billy Joel, sidebar, did his last residency show at Madison Square Garden just the other night. 125 shows, 150 shows, something like that in 10 years. Luckily, I saw 2 of them, most recently in 2022. And Axl came out and did Live and Let Die. Looking old, Axl, but he did it. Excuse me here. Yeah, I didn't see any video of that, but I did see pictures of Axl coming out doing Live and Let Die, which people in the 90s thought, isn't that a great Guns N' Roses song, Live and Let Die? I'd be like, no, it's a Paul song. Back off. God, I remember going to school with that. That new song by by Guns N' Roses is so good. And I'm sitting there going, really, people? Get out of my face. Oh, rookies. Yeah, Matt, smaller niche releases, please and thank you. Less, yes. Saw James McCartney in concert and shook his hand after. Okay. I am David. I am going to both Manchester shows, Saturday and Sunday. The first night, floor, but back probably, I don't know, the second section of seating. So like the first section, but the second. And then night 2, second row. VIP, sound check. All in. Life is short. Buy the tickets. James. If John had done his 1981 tour, do you think his and Yoko's material would have been strong enough to merit a 2-hour show without any Beatles songs? Yes. Yes, I do, James. I do. And that was in the works for John. John was planning to tour in 81. And I do, between the Double Fantasy material, the material that he eventually became Milk and Honey, and then his own solo work. What that set list would have been like, I know he was going to use the Double Fantasy band. If you listen to some of those bootlegs, you can hear him say, let's take it out on the road. Susan just has a good comment. I wanted to talk about this. This was newsworthy. Yeah, I think it would have been a 2-hour show without any Beatles songs. Would have preferred a show more of John's stuff. I'm going to be honest with you. If it was Yoko material, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. But I think by that point, it would have been both of them together. But I do say, out of all of Yoko's stuff, her music on Double Fantasy is the one I can enjoy the most. Some of that early stuff on Approximately Infinite Universe the band is good. I can listen to it. At least there's music being played there. The screaming I can't do. I can't do the screaming. But if John's on some of that music, which he is, I can tolerate it. But I would not enjoy that. A John concert? Yeah, I would have. Susan, Heidi says, Billy, 104 monthly shows over 10 years. 104, wow. Why did I think it was 125? Susan, I saw this last week. File this under the Snooze Fest department of releases here. First 5 albums in the kind of from the SHM CD mini format with the Obi strip and promoting them in the U.S. Pass. Hard pass. David had sent this to our text group during the week. This is a hard pass, man. I can't get into this. McCartney, Ram, Wildlife, Red Rose Speedway, Band on the Run of Venus and Mars, all coming out in this kind of mini LP format. Yeah, I already have some of them anyway. I'm looking. Yeah, I have a couple, but I'm not going for that. Like I have London Town that way, which I bought. I have London Town with this way, but I'm not into that release. But hey, it's product. He's pushing it, so that's what he's doing. Let me catch back up here. Yeah, anybody else going to Manchester? Who asked that question? David asked me. David, are you going to the Manchester shows, David? James says, looking forward to Paul's London show in December, as it will be likely the last chance saloon for me. Yeah, probably. Matt, any thoughts on the Beatles reunion novel that was recently released? It's a what-if story. Have any of you read it? No. Matt, go. Detail. What's it called? Or if Joe Wisby's here, I'm sure he knows about it if he's still on. Joe, tell us about it. David's going to both shows. Okay. Well, let's link up and maybe we'll have a chance to meet before the show, during the show or after, as we get closer. Steve, if we get the 50th anniversary half-speed masters of London Town and Back to the Egg in 78 and 79 before the archive sets, then the archive is over with no more. Yeah, I think we can all agree that it's over. Paul's got his new marketing strategy for how he wants to release these things. So your question is basically, are we waiting until 2028 and 2029 to get half-speed remasters on vinyl of London Town and Back to the Egg? I think the answer is yes. The answer is definitely yes for that. Yes is the answer, and you know that for sure. It ties it all together for you. Yes, exactly, in 2028 and 2029. Yeah. Okay. We'll be in touch. So the book is called Reunion by Gary Burt. Okay. I have to be honest with you, Matt. Anything that's kind of like fantasy writing, fan fiction, I'm not totally into it all. I can appreciate the research that's done into it and the what ifs, but I'm much more of a history person. I like fact. Although I appreciate the writings of fan fiction, obviously the work that Jude does, especially the work that Jude does, because her writing is backed up by fact. So it's different. I don't like, and I'm not poo-pooing fan fiction. I think it's a total separate subgenre of fandom and writing that has its own market of people that love to read that stuff. The what ifs, the hypotheticals. It's not my area. The McCartney legacy, fact, backed up by history. That's much more my speed. James Byer says there was a reunion novel called Paperback Writer in '79. Total nonsense, but fun. Their new album and tour Bahamas. Yeah, you can have fun with things like that. And if you just want to just pass the time and read a fantasy what if, and you want to, then go for it. You know, it's not my cuppa. Gary Burr, okay, from Ringo's former band. Yep. Did anybody see for Chicago that a late edition via Zoom is going to be Peter Jackson and Michael Lindsay Hogg, which is going to be so cool. I'm sure that'll be in the main room again to see those guys. And we got to see them in 2023 in the main room in New York. They had joined via Zoom as well, and that was moderated by Ken Michaels, Ken Dashow, and Alan, and why am I drawing a blank on his name? Darren DeVivo from Things We Said Today. Yes, they will be there via Zoom. If you haven't, the Fest people released that news last week. So they'll be there via Zoom. That'll probably be on Saturday or Sunday, if I'm guessing. Probably Sunday in the main room. And that'll be a cool conversation to watch and see with Peter Jackson and Michael Lindsay Hogg. We actually reached out to Michael Lindsay Hogg on Two Legs to see if he'd be wanting to come on, but his PR people came back to us and said that he's a little let it be talked out because he appeared on a couple. But he did way back in the day, even before me, agree to come on Two Legs. So I had contacted his PR person, and she wrote me back and said that he's not really doing any shows at the moment. But we'll keep trying. But Peter Jackson, if you're watching and you want to come on and talk Paul with us, by all means. He went on Things We Said Today for 3 or 4 hours, and I would take 20 minutes with Peter Jackson. Are you kidding me? I love Lord of the Rings, but I could have a separate conversation just on my own about that. But I would love to talk to Peter Jackson if the opportunity ever came about. So that will be fun to watch. It certainly will, Mike. Yeah. And if I'm guessing, it'll be Saturday. Hopefully no tech hiccups. Yes. There will, Scott. We talked about that at the top of the show. I can't tell you what it's going to be yet, but stay tuned towards the end of the week of this week upcoming. It should be announced, and when it is announced, Tom and I will go live, or I will go live and talk about where I'll be, when I'll be. But it'll be fun, lots of fun. Can't wait. The vacation from the vacation, and man, is it needed. Still not recovered yet. Charlie, as far as reunions go, I think George would have never done it. Yes, and now, as we now know, was only for monetary reasons. Yes, I do. Well, Strawberry Field I've been to many times. Rogue's Museum is new. That was launched since I left Liverpool. That I'm going to see. But Strawberry Field I've been to. But Rogue, the Rogue Best Museum, I do want to see. Obviously with Pete Best and all that. I do definitely want to check that out while I'm there. Susan, I agree with you because that was a movie based on real events, although with pinch of salt with that. Because, again, that was directed by Michael Lindsay Hogg. So there, he knew John and Paul well. And we've talked about this, that movie is the one I can kind of tolerate the most. Jared Harris plays a great, great John Lennon in that film. Very believable. Aidan Quinn, not so much as Paul, but Jared Harris nailed it. Nailed it. Tony said, I have no interest in movies. Okay, fair enough. It is. It is. The anthology was the closest thing we got, and that was just really, I mean, he agreed to it because he was ripped off. He found out he was ripped off by his manager for years, which was not good, which was not cool. Scott, are you, it's a separate camera. Separate camera. So, probably going to stay on another 10 minutes or so and call it a stream at 1 o'clock Eastern, which would be 6 o'clock UK time. So, I'm probably going to hang on for another 10 minutes and then wrap it up. We've already been on for an hour already, which is good fun. I'd like to, Tom did this for the first time a few weeks back, which was nice to see him do it. I'm happy to be back in my usual slot. Yeah, Peter, if you're watching, let's talk Paul, man. Let's talk Paul. Would love to have you on. Big fan. Big fan. He's been on Things We Said Today twice. I mean, 4 hours. Do you guys remember when Get Back came on? He was on their show for 4 hours, and then he came on again, and then he came again. I saw this. I forgot to highlight this before. I saw Paul at the O2 in 2018. Very expensive, but I was singing Not Too Far from Ringo. I can't justify the expense this time around. Enjoyed it. I'm sorry you wrote that before, James. I missed the comment. I'm sorry. But Ringo was there. Okay. Peter Jackson, he could just talk, and the other three guys just sat and listened. But Peter is such a wealth of knowledge. How do you got to just let him? You got to just let him talk, because he's really a Beatle fan, just like the rest of us. He is. I think Peter loves the Beatles. I think he loves the solo stuff just as much. David says, what's your favorite Beatle-related pub? Well, the Baltic Fleet. I had a beer with my dad in the Baltic Fleet. Yes, I did. That is a good pub. Right down there on Wapping, right? Just across from the Beatles Story and the Albert Dock. The Baltic Fleet. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Yeah, wow. That is a great pub. I'm going back there. Although I am partial to the Cavern Pub. The Cavern Pub is my home away from home. Ye Crack was good, but the Baltic Fleet is awesome. I am definitely going back there. Yeah. Does Ringo do shows outside North America? I don't know. You can get Peter Jackson to open up about a Quest for the Carnival of Light movie. Well, if anybody knows, it's going to be Peter, right? It's going to be Peter. If anybody knows or has heard that song, we know that it's Peter Jackson. I personally don't care. I mean, if I've said this, if Carnival of Light was good, it would have been out already. Instead of Frankensteining and finishing Now and Then, which I think is a beautiful song, and I'm so glad they finished it. If Carnival of Light was a legit Beatles recording, that thing would have been out 25, 30 years ago. We all know it. Yeah, well, that Star. We know it's going to be something. Yeah. Oh, the Grapes. The Grapes is a good. Yeah, I did the Grapes when I was in Liverpool. My grandson had his first pint there. I'm glad he popped on here. Prayers out to Beatley Tone, hoping, and here he is. Good morning, Tone. Good afternoon. Good early evening, Tone. Good to see you, mate. And man, if anybody is not aware, Tone's going through some medical stuff right now, and I'm not going to speak to it because it's his little red wagon to pull, and he made a video about it. And if you follow Beatley Tone, watch his video. He was very upfront and honest about what he's going through. I've known about it for a little while because we are mates off the air, and we talk a little bit. And keep him in your thoughts. Tone, you're going to kick the crap out of this stuff, and you'll be back streaming, and we'll be agreeing and disagreeing in no time. So if you haven't watched his video or you know what I'm talking about, go to his channel. Again, I'm not going to speak to it. It's Tony's business, but bravo for you being so public about it. Yeah. And, I mean, the man who is endorsed by the Lennon camp. You go to johnlennon.com. Who do you see? Beatley Tone. Who's better than him? I hope you're enjoying your set, though, Tone. Have you worked your way through all of it yet? And all the different things with it. And what do you enjoy the most so far? I'm glad he popped on here. Let me go back. Yes. Good, good, good. He has a fantastic channel. One of the best. I put him up there with Andrew from Parlogram. He's that good. He's that good. He's authentic. He's real. He's informative, and he's funny. I remember one of the first videos I ever saw him do. When I guess when he joined YouTube, maybe over 2 years ago now, maybe 3. He did a video talking about the value of all the McCartney archive issues, and I said, this man knows his stuff, and we have to get to know him better, and we have. We've done live streams together. Which we'll do again. We did that thing stuck inside these 4 walls with myself, Tom, Joe, and him. And there will be more great stuff. And Tony, when I come over to England in December, you and I are going to get together, mate. And we're going to have a good one. We are. And he is a drummer. The vinyl. Okay, yeah. And we're going to do a separate show. I said this at the start of my live stream today. We're going to do a separate show. But right now, I think I'm impressed with it. The outtakes and the Evolution documentary ones are my favorite so far. Although I see a lot of people loving the Elemental stuff. And I've seen some criticism, too, about that. Well, it's just Sean having fun with the different tracks and making new stuff. He might. Oh, yes, we will. Yes, we will. Matt's going to take off. Thanks for these Sunday sessions. Me too. I'm happy to be back. Last Sunday was a little bit of a foggy one because the internet wasn't great, but I had to go live from Italy. I was there. But now I'm back in my surroundings and back with my cube and my stuff and everything in this room that kind of is Andy Nichols. So I look forward to them too, and I'll be here every Sunday, God willing. Touch wood, as we say. Thank you, Susan. The Elemental mixes, yeah. So that's the one I just started playing this morning. I was just, as you know, Tony, I was away, so I just kind of I played the proper remix this morning, yesterday, and I started on the Elemental just a little while ago. Yeah, it was. Yes, it was. Steve says there's a quote from Farscape. Listen, there's always time for beer. A friend of mine has a plaque in their house that says, pubs are the best umbrella for rain or something like that. It's you know the quote I'm talking about. It's a pretty funny quote. Or pubs are the best sunblock or something like that. I did, Scott. I did. We touched upon that a little while ago. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to take a while. And it's just going to take a while to go through it all. It is. And I think it'll be the crown jewel. I think after we get all the other stuff, rock and roll. Hey, Julia. Thank you, Mike. I think once we get rock and roll, once we get Walls and Bridges, Mind Games is going to stand on its own and take the place of where it should have always been. Of where it always should have been. That's what it is. It's pubs, the official sunblock of Ireland. That's the one. Yes. Love that one. Thank you, MVP, for that. Yeah. So, but that's universal, though, right? It doesn't have to be Ireland. It could be England. It could be America. It could be Italy. And God knows did I need sunblock in Italy. That was heat like I have never felt in my life. The hottest I ever was when I visited Tom 3 summers ago out in Phoenix, walking around in 10 degree pure heat. And I was like, damn, this is hot. Italy was a lot hotter. Maybe not temperature-wise, but the humidity, Maron. That was tough. And all the walking, all that walking, all that heat, I didn't lose a pound, I didn't gain a pound because I was in Italy. So you can imagine how good the food was. Got back on the scale back here when I got to New Jersey, and I said, okay, not up, not down, level. That's a win. Thought it would have lost a little bit with all that damn sweating I did, but it's fine. Okay. Danny says my 3 favorite Beatles YouTubers are you, Andy Beatles. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Danny boy. The pipes are calling. Julia thinks that the archives are, I really don't think the archives are done. Paul or MPL would tell us. Yeah, but would they? I think they're telling us without telling us, Julia. Tony, what do you think? Do you think that they're done? I think he might think that they're done. Again, if you were friends with Alan Kozin on social media, wish him a happy birthday today. He is 70 years young. Many, many more. Tony says, I never got out of Italy without putting on a few. You did well, Andy. Whew. First thing I did when I got back, I said, I got to get on the scale. See, I agree with Susan. Susan and I are on the same page here. I think that they're done. Hello, Elliot. David, I hope Walls and Bridges doesn't come out with a replica Hadrian Wall or a Brooklyn Bridge. I think this is going to be a one. I don't think you're going to see the extravagant, super uber thing that Mind Games is. Just like the Harrison All Things Must Pass crate. I think this is a one and done. I think Sean and the team had an opportunity to use some really great marketing and having all these games and all this stuff kind of ephemera buried within it. I don't think we're going to get that with Walls and Bridges. I think, especially as we talked about earlier in the stream, because Yoko was not really involved in that album. So I think my gut feeling will be Walls and Bridges will just be a standard. Here's a super deluxe issue of it, and I don't think we're going to get a Magic super deluxe set. I'm glad that we got one for Mind Games because since I was a teenager, it's been my favorite album. So I'm glad that this album got that unique treatment. I don't think Walls and Bridges is going to get that same treatment. I don't. Tony says, I can't bring myself to admit the archives are dead, but the longer it goes on, the more likely it is. Yeah, you don't want to admit it, but then you get to a point and say, well, here we are now, 4+ years since Flaming Pie came out, the summer of 2020. And I do. James says, I don't think the archives are officially done, but like Paul often does, he just moves on without saying anything. I hope not. It's not fair for us OCD completists who want our egg in London town. Yeah. Also true. Yeah, it'll just be a regular standard, which will be great. Yeah. Well, what do you mean, James? James says, I think they need to streamline the archive series and make it more basic. How? You've got a formula here that the Lennons use where they give you a remix, they give you elements, elemental, and then a documentary from start to finish. Now, Tony and I mentioned this on Hoppin' Forum. Ooh, I just spilled a little bit of something on the book. That's not good. The juice I was drinking. Has anybody heard the Evolution documentary mix of Intuition? Now, I mention this because that version, the first minute of that song, it's like a funeral pace version of Intuition. I've not heard that anywhere. And I've had bootlegs of Mind Game stuff for decades. I've heard demos of Intuition, but it's always been kind of bouncy and poppy. I had never heard a version of Intuition that sounded so Plastic Ono Band like. Like it sounded like it could have been on Plastic Ono Band. I want to hear that whole thing. You hear a minute of it, and then it cuts to studio. That was fascinating. I must have listened to it 100 times. If anybody out there has heard or has a bootleg of that full version of Intuition and that kind of slow, funereal pace, please tell me, because I would love to hear that whole version of it. That's why I love the Evolution documentary, because you hear it from germ of an idea to a work in progress to finished master. That's why I love it. And that version of Intuition has been, since I got this, I'm like, I got to hear more. I have to hear more. James says 2 or 3 CDs and less books. Got it. Partially agree, but not too basic. Okay. David, the suitcase was a one-off. At least Tom knows it's hard to display on my shelf. Yeah. Good to see you here, Tone. Hang in there. By the way, I do love Venus and Mars, just not as much as others. Okay. Tony, did you see, are you going to get any of those Japanese SHM mini LPs that Paul released this past week? I have no interest in those. Are you going to grab those, Tony? Susan Gagny mentioned it too. She's got no interest. I have no interest in those either. Yeah. It is. That, And again, I've heard just about all the Lennon bootlegs I've ever heard. I never heard that in my life. So I would love to have like heard where Sean got that from and how he picked it apart to use that for that. As you also know, Only People had kind of fragments of a song called Sally and Billy, which I heard years ago on the Lost Lennon tapes. And I knew I could hear that became the evolution of Only People. That "Oh, How He Cried" bit, that he ended up using that in Only People. I saw a lot of people on the forum saying, how is Sally and Billy tied to Only People? Listen, you could listen and hear where John was going with it. And that's how John, he could kind of take fragments of songs and recycle them and use them later on. Scott, if Paul wants to end the archive collection, he should at least finish the Wings 70s stuff. Oh, yeah, and he had Tone had a ton of supportive messages on his channel, and I can't give him enough kudos for being so brave to talk about that and put it out there. And just my heart goes out to him, and he has become such a friend of mine and Two Legs, but mine personally, and I think the world of him. I think the world of you, Tone, and I love everything you do, and we just connect and agree on so much. So I love you, man. James, how good would a Beatle version of "Shop Around" by the Miracles with Paul singing have been? Paul would have sounded amazing. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Very well. Paul doing the falsetto. Easily. Pointless Release. Yeah, I don't get it. So Tone's not going to go for them. It's all the half-speed masters. Yeah, exactly. No. It's a vinyl thing. Exactly. Unless you like your Obi strip, which, again, I showed London. I have a couple of them, but there's no real need to have them. You too, man. You better shop around. I could see him doing that. Shout is a very exciting Beatles cover. It is, because it was only done for, correct me if I'm wrong, Ready, Steady, Go, I think. And that was like before the anthology. If you had Shout, you had a real gem of a song, because where else were you going to hear the Beatles doing Shout? I remember really loving that. And of course on the video, I think it's Ready, Steady, Go. They're just miming it. They're miming it. Yeah. Yep. David says, I have a box with about 6 Japan CDs in it. The Band on the Run sleeve is the picture on this box, but McCartney's is included inside. Okay. Yep. Ready, Steady, Go. Shout Around on the Beatles. Yep. Yep. Like I've said, Tone's reviewed and listened. I'm sure of course he has. Of course he has. But it's going to take months. It's going to take months to go through all that stuff. It really is. Let alone the music, just the books. Tone, earlier in the live stream, I had said that I'm enjoying the information in the standard book than the kind of John and Yoko Mind Games book, because it seems like there's much more detail from the musicians in this book than that one. Do you agree? I'm wondering what his thoughts on that are. Because I've just started reading it this morning, and the information from those guys is great. Spinoza, Keltner, Gordon Edwards, Ken Asher. You're not getting that in that book, unless I miss something. Again, you're kind of like when you get a new box set like that, you're ripping it open and going, what's this? What's this? What's this? You want to take it all in. Yes, he did. I saw that this morning. Yeah, he did it again. He did a great one like that. And his content is always great. But, Andrew and Beatley Tone for me are like the messiahs of out there. We're just two blokes here who just are two Yanks who, love our McCartney Beatles stuff, We're not on their level at all. Tony hasn't really gotten to the standalone book yet, but the book included the set was Vital Info. Yeah, it was. Okay. He did. Oh, okay. Well, that's about an hour and 20, gang, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here on a Sunday afternoon, lazing on a Sunday afternoon or evening, as Queen sings. So it's good to be back stateside and our usual Sunday gang here. Everybody, Russ, Steve Lawler, Tony, Susan, James, Tony, everybody, especially Beatley Tone, Scott O'Rourke, Susan Gagney, Julia, everybody who I might have missed, I'm sorry. Charlie, Ted, Steve Sanderson, Danny Boy, Charlie, Russ, David Jackson. Good talking to you all again today. I'll be on again next Sunday. If we get the fest schedule this week, I will be live to talk about where Tom and I will be. Probably the end of the week, we'll know where that's going to be, and we'll be there. We'll be there. Oh, yeah. A little rock show for you before I sign off. So, great chat. Good to be back home, talking to you all again from America. Beatles Fest Chicago, here we come. And can't wait to, just continue diving in and absorbing mind games and everything with it. Elemental mixes, evolution mixes, and just diving into that mind games rabbit hole. I can't wait. Yes, exactly. Love you all. See you next time on Two Legs or live, and I'll talk to you all soon. Be well. Bye.